Okay, so in regards to the theft of my RV and personal property, it has been alleged that I was trespassing when I was not on scene to ever be notified of an alleged trespass, which coincides with the Virginia law for trespassing. You cannot be trespassing after you have not been forbidden to do so. Basically, that correlates to also stand your ground laws. You can't just shoot somebody in the face that sets foot on your property without first having notified them of an alleged trespass. This is a definitive violation of due process without being notified. With that being said, once again, I was not in the RV when it was stolen from me, with trespassing being alleged. When was the last time that you ever heard of an inanimate object that is not flesh and blood trespassing? That's right. Cars cannot trespass. With that being said, all the criminal reports that I filed in multiple agencies and with prosecutors, Megan Clark, Tracy Quackenbush, they are actively participating in violation of rights to due process. Megan Clark, just the other day, I posted to her Facebook on an official page of hers on a public platform, Facebook, and their office, Megan Clark, maybe herself, blocked my First Amendment right to free speech. If you know anything about precedent, the Supreme Courts have already ruled that Donald Trump cannot block people from the platform from commenting, nor can he block people from accessing or viewing his page. With that being said, that sets ultimate precedent for what happened the other day. Once again, I posted criminal reports to Megan Clark, Prince Edward County Commonwealth Attorney's page, and she decided to retaliate against me, the victim witness and current informant of crime, in regards to a definitive violation of my right to free speech from posting on her platform. This is also another charge of tampering with evidence after the fact, in addition to treason and misprision of felony for being in possession of felony criminal information in regards to the grand larceny theft of my RV and choosing to do nothing about it, being willfully blind, protecting ultimately Mark Estes and Donnie Ellington, who are directors of businesses that have contracts tied to our local community. They are being protected from prosecution by the Town of South Boston Police Department, the Halifax County Sheriff's Department, the Virginia State Police, Megan Clark, Tracy Quackenbush, and if I can get to the point where I can speak with an attorney general, I will record them too and suspect that they will be participating actively against me. I want my property back, and I have the right to seize my property and stand my ground in my property. And the moment I locate my property, you wait. I'm currently looking to organize a protest in my local community on behalf of the criminals that are in office to raise awareness for the crime that is ongoing in our community. We must vet the system of those who infiltrated it, who conduct themselves in a treasonous manner. This is a form of domestic terrorism in the form of lawfare, warfare throughout law. I've been studying for 10 years and I'm not playing these games. I have the common law right to place individuals under citizen's arrest for felony within view, and I did that to Mr. Donnie Ellington of Franklin's Garage and Towing and Recovery Wrecker Service, to which he told me to exit the property, and I told him to stay right there. He was under arrest, and I vacated the property to report his crime to the proper authorities in the jurisdiction, which would be the first report to the Halifax County Sheriff's Office, to which they sent Deputy Waddell, who was solicited by Donnie Ellington to further retaliate. That office had previously been tipped off that I was going to report to them when I had not yet reported to them because it was not yet within their jurisdiction. With that being said, I walked into Donnie's office. I handed him a legal notice giving him the option to retract from his crime against me and to restore my property clean and clear, to which I would be taking up further damages with Mark Estes, who authorized the unlawful removal of my property without notice to me of an alleged trespass. They cannot just remove my vehicle without following the law. They first claimed it was deemed abandoned, but I went through the statutes. It has to be 48 or 72 hours to deem it abandoned. Per the Virginia state law, without tags and registration, it would be a deemed abandoned during those times. With that being said, the DMV was shut down, so I just can't register shit. So I was in a pickle, and they stole from me. They took my home and all of my basic essential needs inside of it. It's quite the pickle. People don't know anything about law, and ever since the Revolutionary War, people that are lawmen have been extorting people like me, using the guise under color of law to permit extortion. Federally, the definition of a motor vehicle is one that is used for commercial purposes. The state of Virginia's lawmakers that conducted themselves in a treasonous manner would reword the definition to abrogate my right federally to drive in a private capacity a vehicle. The state of Virginia removed the words "for commercial purposes," thus making every motor vehicle under scrutiny for taxation, titling, and registration, and to be held with the burden of carrying insurance. So, what do you do when you can't report to anybody because these officers are conducting themselves being willfully blind and retaliating against a victim, witness, and informant? If the Constitution specifically honors nomadic and private class citizens, why would the states force somebody to have a physical address like myself in order to participate in identification or licensing? I told Lisa at the DMV in South Boston, Virginia, I do not consent to the use of any address that is not my own. They retaliated against me, dissolving my consumer account and my licensing that was valid out of thin air, solely because I did not consent to fraud in providing an address that was not my own. Their policy is that I am required to have an address. Because I stood my ground and requested to be treated equally and fairly under federal law, they violated my rights through abrogation with systematic statutory subversion. We live in a subversion incubator, people, and if you aren't becoming wiser, please wake up. This is why people are protesting all across the country. I'm a voluntarist. I believe in voluntarism. If you don't know what it is, please look it up. It's a lot. Sorry, give me a second. I gotta breathe. So with that being said, Lisa violated my rights. I reported her to the commissioner's office at the DMV. I'm not just bitching about things. No, I'm pursuing things. A year ago, they swept it under the mat, giving me addresses, telling me to pick and choose one. I followed up this year when I found out that my licensing had been dissolved out of thin air, given the nature of my nomadic state of class. They violated my federal right to be nomadic, attempting to force me to commit fraud to participate in this agency's program. During that false arrest that Donnie Ellington solicited Deputy Waddell for, he filed false reports against me claiming that I was threatening and harassing his staff members. This is another charge of filing false reports. With that being said, I have that on footage. I have documented everything. I've recorded all the officials that have stood in my way, that have conducted themselves in a treasonous manner. Treason is punishable by death, and if I could, I would seek it out for those individuals that are conducting themselves in a criminal manner, participating in racketeering and organized crime, retaliating against victim witnesses and informants. If we can set a good example for those who wish to take office, maybe they wouldn't do such a bad job and slowly erode our rights through systematic statutory subversion. We live in a subversion incubator. This is not good. The moment that I can't find an honest, non-biased conservator of the peace, badged official operating under color of law, we have a real problem here, people. I know that law enforcement would be openly solicited and come running to criminally investigate and extort all of you of your funds and property and time. But the moment that we call out the officials on their crime, they are innocent until we prove their guilt. Where it is the reverse for our class of citizenry. We are guilty and we must prove our innocence. This is ass backwards. This is not healthy. This is definitive class warfare, domestic terrorism in the form of lawfare. I don't use these words lightly. I use them the way that they should be used because it is the definitive truth. If anybody would like to argue me, please furnish me the statutory authority and counter anything I have to say, because you know I'm hardly wrong because I love knowing exactly what I'm participating in and what I'm involved with. I started studying law 10 years ago for malicious prosecutions, and I've had multiple false arrests and they've been dissolved, including this most recent one for assuming duties of law enforcement. 18.2-174 is a fraud statute in the state of Virginia for impersonating and assuming duties of law enforcement. The Democrats and Republicans that create the systematic statutory subversion have created an open-faced statute under this authority that would give anybody who's dressed up in a uniform and costume for a Halloween party, it would give them the authority to arrest individuals conducting lawful citizens arrest. We have the right to investigate, report on, and arrest individuals for crime for felony within view. With that being said, 18.2-174 in the state of Virginia, after a state Supreme Court ruling, would openly abrogate the citizen's right and openly allow for solicitation of law enforcement to come criminally extort us and use lawfare as a form of domestic terrorism to suppress a class of citizenry. There's a bunch of people across the country whom I've spoken with whom endured the same thing as far as reporting of the system, the retaliation, the criminal theft of property. They can't take your home without an indictment from a grand jury. That was my home and all of my basic essential needs. Mark Estes made a bad shot call that day without having notified me. He could have tagged it for removal. And just to let you know how sick and twisted these people are, when I pulled up on that property, there was already a couple trailers owned by a private individual who used that lot just like I did. And you know what? He was there before me with his property, and he got to remove his property after they conducted the theft of my vehicle in 24 hours. They allowed that gentleman an additional 24 hours, but openly retaliated against me committing grand larceny theft. With that being said, Mark Estes solicited the town of South Boston to respond to an alleged trespassing vehicle. But you cannot trespass a vehicle, you have to trespass flesh and blood. With that being said, when he solicited the town of South Boston, they sent a very familiar Officer Perkins. The day prior, I had moved from a previous property. A.B. Jones, who owns the Food Lion parking lot, had to catch up with me, had to notify me of an alleged trespass, and I requested law enforcement was there that day because A.B. Jones destroyed my property on my door with adhesive. So I wanted to file a report against him for destruction of my property. This I have recorded information of. When he solicited the town of South Boston, Officer Perkins, Officer McGregor, among a couple other bad actors show up. They refuse me my right to report on the crime of destruction of property, and they retaliate against me. Mr. Perkins placed me under arrest. He said the same thing I told Donnie Ellington. He said, "You're under arrest." I said, "For what?" He said, "Disorderly conduct," because I was animate on reporting crime when they were openly retaliating against me. He further wanted to retaliate against me, the victim, witness, and informant of crime against my property, with arrest. This happens all across the country to individuals whom are reporting on crime against individuals whom are in seemingly positions of power. It's a sick, twisted world we live in. And I want everybody to know this is not an isolated incident to me. I can furnish a list of people whom have endured the same kind of treason and lawfare in the form of warfare against them. This is why people are protesting. This is why people are waking up and defunding the police. This is why the mayor of Portland is trying to attempt to kick out the federal government, because they know that the government, whose sworn duty is to protect the people, openly retaliates against the class of citizen that are not officials. That's all I got for you today. This is probably the most direct, informative video I've posted in regards to this. I'm not furnishing a list of statutes. I don't need to do that. You guys can research and do the same kind of legwork I did on your own if you're just curious. If anybody has any questions, I would be open to listening. The comments from my trolls, the peanut gallery, you guys just don't know what you're doing. Victim shaming doesn't look good on you. And you know what? I will prevail. This is awesome. I have the common law right to place individuals under citizen's arrest. And I've told every individual, these prosecutors, that I will be placing them under citizen's arrest. I want them to be tried for treason. I want them to serve time behind bars. I want them to do the crime, or do the time for the crimes that they have committed. So that's pretty much it. You know, I'm a victim of ongoing racketeering and organized crime. The RICO Act, the KKK Act, Three Quarters Act, the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Where are these to protect me when the people that are committing the crime are officials that have infiltrated our government and offices? These are the people, human beings with emotion, that are supposed to represent the public. They don't care about the public. They don't care about me. They don't care about you guys. Votes don't matter. They're going to commit fraud and fudge these votes. And if you aren't paying attention and becoming wiser with what I'm putting down for you guys, then I feel sorry for you. I bet you're still paying taxes. I bet you may contribute to local law enforcement. That ain't right. You are openly funding a criminal organization. You are participating in the organized crime. So, you know, our military, we've been at war. We're at war domestically, as we have been ever since the beginning of the Revolutionary War. The lawmen have infiltrated our government, extorted the colonists, and we haven't vetted the system of them since. It is a whole class of officials against a class of citizenry. I would like to continue educating you guys from what I've learned as I continue to learn it. It just dawned on me, you can't trespass an inanimate object, and I'm doing the crime, or doing the time for a crime I have not committed. It's criminal theft. You've got to notify somebody. Not one individual with a badge in the state of Virginia has furnished me any statutory authority that would prove that I was trespassing. There's no statements claiming I've ever been notified. And my public defender, who was Elizabeth Trent, was attempting to undermine my right to control my defense, further participating in the racketeering and organized crime against me, conspiring with the criminal parties. She was speaking with the police. She came at me, furnished me a statute that would fall under trespassing, that claims that I was depriving an individual of their property rights with the intent to cause destruction to the property. That's what they throw at me, but they're not going to charge me with that. They cannot. They quickly dissolved my assuming duties of law enforcement charge because they did not want me to bump this up into a federal court. They questioned my competency because I'm very competent. They ordered a psychological evaluation, which I politely declined under the 4th and the 5th Amendment, to be secure in my persons and to not incriminate myself. These are federal rights. At the state level, the lawmakers would produce the systematic statutory subversion that would give the state the right to solicit any retaliation against me for refusal. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I've done an impeccable job throughout the last 10 years defending myself from said malicious prosecutions. So when Elizabeth Trent did that to me, she is a part of the Trent Law Offices in Halifax County, Virginia. I pretty much realized she about ruined her career. I will be charging her for treason as well. I'm currently acting private attorney general, but the citizens who have the rights to do these things, we have no door to the system. We hold no keys to the jail. It's wrong. It's not right. I request that you share this video far and wide to let individuals know what we endure as a secondary class of citizenry to officials who hold office. You guys have a wonderful day. I'm traveling on the road right now to find a peace of mind, and it feels good. It feels real good to be out of town, away from those individuals who are actively trying to retaliate against me. I tried to pick up my things that were taken off me from a false arrest, that weren't submitted into evidence, that weren't being lawfully held, and the Halifax County Sheriff's Office refused me restoration of my property that they took off me during the false arrest. Even though I had in my hand an order from the Halifax County General District Court that would show the case had been dissolved, they wanted to contact the corrupt prosecutors to ask them if the charges had been dissolved. But guess what? Without submitting it to evidence or requesting a warrant for those things, you have no right to be in a lawful possession of my property. So going that route to determine if the case had been dissolved, you were actively committing a crime depriving me of my property. Officer Barksdale threatened me with trespassing on county property. While I was attempting to file these reports with 911, a deputy came out, called 911 as I was filing reports against them, and he was going to tell them to hang up on me. I'm not crazy, I know better. And they would have already arrested me for filing false reports long ago if I was wrong. They're not giving me a key to the courthouse because they know I'm right and they know what kind of power that comes from the knowledge that I possess. Everybody tells me I should be a lawyer. Everybody that I talk to who's familiar with law understands what I'm enduring right now. It's a sick, twisted world we live in, and we didn't create it. Our country had been hijacked from us long ago. I'm Mike Raposo, and I approve this message. Have a wonderful day. Spread the love and the knowledge. Take care of those in your community. Help others. We have the right to overthrow, setting precedent back from throwing out the British. It's treasonous to want to overthrow your government, but when you want to overthrow for the purpose of vetting the organized crime that is conducted by those who hold office, with the precedent from previous overthrow, we have that right. So, I openly say, if you, a badged officer, local, state, or federal, want to continue to retaliate against me and try to bury me in the system like you have for years, I welcome it. Give me the keys to the courthouse once again so I can defend my case from your malicious prosecutions. If that be the only way I can inject information on record into a court of record, which General District isn't, so you're going to have to charge me with something pretty serious to get me to attempt to shut up. The knowledge is here. I don't need papers anymore. I have all the evidence set up in multiple files ready to be dumped if anything were to happen to me. Every name, every location, every address of every individual who's participated. I don't want to be charged with doxing. No, because that's legit. But I'm not afraid to share the knowledge of these criminal reports to the general public. So, like I said, I openly welcome anybody holding a badge to give me a key to the courthouse once again. Let me do what I do best. Let me prove I know law better than you stupid people who attempt to enforce it. You appall me. You don't know anything about what you're doing other than participating in retaliation against a class of citizenry. These laws are stupid. It's illegal in one state to have an ice cream cone in your back pocket. Who makes laws like that? I mean, if that doesn't tell you how stupid the system is and how bored these people are and how much they want to attempt to suppress us, I don't know what else does. You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for checking this video out. Take care.